Good day. Welcome to another wonderful Wednesday's Best Practices Teaching Tips. This week we're going to take a quick look at diversity in the classroom. We individually may not all think that we have to concern ourselves with race, sex, or culture in the classroom because we generally tend to think that we are unbiased. But if we introspect closely, one would know that we all have biases. What we need to challenge ourselves to do is to really realize these biases and expose ourselves to ways in which we can deal with them in and out of the classroom. Not only race, sexual orientation, or cultural differences. And as we all know, diversity brings classroom challenges. You are asked as a professor to acknowledge viewpoints other than your own. This can sometimes be challenging, but we want to make sure we know how to deal with this in the classroom. One way we can deal with this is to make the classroom all, and by this we mean get to know students individually, learn their names. I mean their real names, not Sue and Bob, but the sometimes challenging names that we have to learn to pronounce. It's a challenge, but I think we can all do it. Also, be inclusive in your examples that you use in class. Try to use different gender names. Use words like partner instead of spouse. I know I've put my foot in my mouth a couple times using the word husband and wife when it may not have been very appropriate in the classroom. Another thing that we can do is use the Cardinal Rule. Just basically treat others as you would like to be treated yourself. Also, try to foster religious tolerance and don't let anyone be scapegoated in your classroom. You know, sometimes there are a group of persons, or maybe just one person, that would dominate the discussion in the class, but you are responsible for not letting this occur in your classroom. Other tips for equity in the classroom would be to address men and women consistently. In other words, don't address women as Sue or Jane and address men as Mr. Smith or Mr. Rodriguez. So you need to be consistent in the way that you approach and address individuals. Also, avoid gender forms of address. For example, Mr. or Miss, just call them either by their first names or their last names consistently, and that way you won't have to think about what you're doing equitably to one sex or race. As I've mentioned, foster religious sensitivity and religious tolerance. And at the end of this presentation, I have provided a listing of websites and other resources that give more information on how to diversify your classroom. Of course, this all goes into staying within legal bounds in the classroom. And here is a really comprehensive website that just kind of gives you some guidelines on legal and ethical issues when it comes to education in the United States. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you on Wednesday.